I'm here to pick up some delictados.
Delictados? We haven't made delictados in 30 years.
There are a lot of references throughout the whole movie, especially in the title sequence. It's like you get your Thunderbolt thing, you get your Dr. No thing. They make a reference to the gun barrel turn and shoot, which is kind of cool, but also kind of odd, you know, to pay homage to oneself, especially in a movie that already has a turn and shoot. Like, what if Casino had a gun barrel opener, but then also had the bathroom turn and shoot? Just kind of seems redundant, or something that some other franchise would do as a shout out. And then at the very end, Madeline drives down a tunnel that narrows the frame into a tiny white circle, just like the ones that every movie typically opens up with, but this time we're closing with that. It's mostly OHMSS within the story itself, and there's stuff here and there, right. But like, it's not like it was with Die Another Day. Something that I find kind of odd is that in the book, the OHMSS book is pretty great, and I recommend it. But something that happens at the outset is Bond goes back to Casino Royale annually. He goes back every year to relive his victory and to remember Vesper, but he goes back every year to relive the thrill of that first big win. I don't understand why that wasn't a part of this. Why don't we do that here? Damn it. Instead, the movie opens up in Matera, Italy. Why is Vesper buried in Italy? Why wasn't she sent home?
Why isn't she buried in England?
In England. Why wouldn't they send her body home to England? Why is she buried in this random acropolis? Like, it's kind of an awkward thing.
It is a nitpick, but I 100% get what you're saying.
It's odd. It's like kind of a convenience thing. But I still think that, again, reading OHMSS, you have an opportunity where you have this reboot series that started with Casino Royale. You could have ended it with showing how Bond goes back to Casino Royale, and you can fan service, you can refer to your really good movie, but instead they don't. Instead, it's this weird bomb situation where later Blofeld's like, oh yeah, I put a bomb there and I just let it sit there for years.
I knew you'd come visit it. I just needed to wait for the bon moment.
And that's very clever. That's very Blofeld-esque.
I was questioning as far as like, well, why would he just be like, no, be gone with you. I this is it. Like, I'm done with you. We can't be together kind of thing. And I thought about it more and I was like, it seems like he'd be like, oh no, this was Spectre. I knew this wasn't you.
What happened?
How did they know I was here?
What are you talking
Madeline,
about?
How did they know I was here?
But then I forgot, oh wait, how did him and Vesper end? Vesper is like his true love, right?
Mm-hmm.
Vesper betrayed him. So then I'm like, oh wait, that's right. Oh, that's why he acts the way he does towards Madeline. I can't trust you. I can't even think about it. I'm like gonna over second guess myself to the point where I'm like, I can't be with you anymore. We gotta part ways. And it's heartbreaking.
I mean, it honestly is a really bad look for Madeline.
I'll tell you if you tell me about Vesper.
Is that why we're here?
She's buried at the Acropolis.
I know where she's buried.
The fact that she took Bond there specifically to visit the Acropolis is a bad look for her, but that's only if you're just looking at this movie. Otherwise, the whole thing is too much of a stretch considering what she and Bond have already been through. Vesper was probably in love with Bond, but she was definitely still in love with her boyfriend that Spectre was holding hostage in order to control her. But here with Madeline, what possible motivation could she have for betraying Bond at this point?
Your father would be so proud of you.
Her father's approval? That's just plain stupid and is a complete misunderstanding of Madeline's character. Yeah, she and Bond have trust issues stemming from their separate backstories, but something isn't quite adding up here, especially because they keep hinting at her having some kind of dark secret she has yet to reveal.
And when her secret finds its way out, and it will, it'll be the death of you.
You have to let her go, even if it's hard.
So I do this, and then...
I'll tell you all my secrets.
But that just ends up being the fact that Safin once tried to kill her, which is irrelevant in this context, and her pregnancy, which she fails to tell him about purely out of convenience.
Why would I betray you?
We all have our secrets. We just didn't get to yours yet.
What if she would have told Bond right then and there at the train station? No doubt he would have come to his senses and realized this whole thing was just Blofeld being Blofeld.
Vesper's grave. Madeline didn't do a thing. It was all me.
It's so empty that I almost wish her betrayal had been real to showcase that her childhood really, really messed her up.
Madeline, she's a daughter of Spectre. She's
daughter of Spectre.
Or maybe Blofeld had threatened her unborn child if she didn't betray Bond or something, but instead there's nothing. There's no dark secret whatsoever. Once again revealing just how stupidly contrived most of this script is, which is why they keep the whole movie moving as quickly as possible before anybody notices. This whole ordeal really just underscores my previous comments about how this movie shouldn't have broken them up in the beginning, because it completely wipes out whatever character arc we saw from Bond and Madeline in the last movie, regardless of that movie's rock bottom status on the list, and exposes the opening for what it is, a pathetic excuse to jumpstart the movie with action for the sake of action rather than continuing Bond's story from the previous film. Showcasing a really boring home life would have been the most appropriate way of opening a movie about James Bond in retirement. But no, we have to go back to Vesper again. The idea that Bond is still hung up on Vesper over a decade later, even after retiring specifically to be with Madeline, is really just lame at this point.
Can you forgive her?
I left her behind a long time ago.
Yes, several movies ago. I thought we were past this by now.
Forgive her.
Don't get me wrong, Vesper is a great character, but are we really gonna drag this out for another? It's a fifth movie?
I miss you.
Things probably wouldn't have worked out in the long run anyway, dude. Just get the over it. A better movie's prologue would have been about new 007 failing to stop the theft of Heracles or something, while Bond enjoys retirement with his wife and daughter before being called back into action. This would set up why new 007 is so insecure, coupled with the drama of Bond choosing to risk all he's built for his
Pathetic love of country.
Instead, they repeat the ending of Casino because reference, even if it hardly makes any sense. Again, the bomb is a clever play by Blofeld, but that cleverness is undermined by also having a group of assassins on standby 24/7 waiting for Bond to visit the grave. It's literally no different from The World Is Not Enough, where Elektra very cleverly arranges to have her father's kingpin detonate Renard's money bomb. But then for no reason, there's also an assassin shooting at Bond from a boat just so we can have an exciting action scene. The bomb and the phone call would have been enough, but that's assuming Blofeld didn't want to kill Bond.
I didn't need to kill you. I'd already broken you. I wanted to give you an empty world.
But just wanted to frame Madeline.
It's Blofeld, my love. Your sacrifice will be our glory.
But if that's the case, exploding a bomb 2 feet in front of Bond's face makes both Blofeld and Bond look stupid. Blofeld's stupid because if his intention was to frame Madeline, then he should have designed a scenario wherein somebody called Bond away from the grave just before it exploded to create the illusion of a failed assassination attempt. Something would have pulled him away. He walks away and then it blows up and maybe it kills somebody else. This failed assassination coupled with the phone call would really look like Madeline had tried to kill him. But Blofeld did both the bomb in the face and the phone call, which makes no sense because it's like he planned to make sure the explosion didn't kill Bond, which is even stupider and makes Bond look the stupidest because the very fact that he survived the explosion at all, one could argue, is evidence enough that it wasn't a real bomb, but was more of a special effect to manipulate him. Having the bomb go off in his face, you're like
right there. I was like, I tried to figure like, how the did he survive
should be dead.
that? Stone blown up to his face.
Yeah, he should be dead. But regardless, what did Blofeld want? He says later he wanted to frame Madeline in order to split them up, but if that's the case, why send the assassins after him too? Giving it the benefit of the doubt for 2 seconds that maybe it was all for show, shouldn't they have at least waited until he confronted Madeline? Like, was Primo pulling his punches? Were these guys missing Bond on purpose? It's all very much like For Your Eyes Only, where Christados' men attack Bond to make it look like Columbo wants Bond dead, but it doesn't look like a charade. It doesn't look like a setup. It looks like they're actually trying to kill him because the filmmakers aren't putting any thought into the intrigue. But what about me? Am I thinking too hard about this? Maybe, but only because it's details like this that lead me to believe that nobody gave a shit about the story here and only wanted to pump this movie full of action and references to better films. OHMSS references, McCurdy, you referred to a few. It's mostly through the music, and then obviously we have all the time in the world.
Now we have all the time in the world.
We have all the time in the world.
We have all the time in the world.
You have all the time in the world.
All the time in the world, which I swear, I really wish that was the title. I swear to God, that would have been a more fitting title for the movie, because you have Bond going off and having a life outside of the agency and then being pulled back in. Like I mentioned it earlier, but that to me is very specific OHMSS stuff that I think is the part that I think gets a lot of people, because I like that story. I think that's a great story, because he has an internal conflict. He has to choose from his personal life, like a normal life, versus having this life of this fantastical life of being essentially a superhero. So there's that reference, but also there's more, because when you look at the plot of the movie and what is this thing that is going to kill all these people, is essentially the same thing that was in OHMSS.
Our great breakthrough since last summer has been the confection of a certain Vitus Omega.
Infertility.
Total infertility.
We're sending out all of these women who have this perfume that has this deadly virus that's going to kill everybody.
Yeah.
But this is like an updated version of that.
They're nanobots. Microscopic biorobots that can enter your system by the slightest contact with your skin.
It's a deadly virus that's going to kill everybody.
Hell, you even see her do the perfume on her wrist and everything before she sees Blofeld.
Exactly.
I mean, the only thing they're missing in this movie, I think, is that there's no skiing in it. But still, like, it's... like pieces of it are there, and some of it's pulled from Spectre, of course, because even in Spectre, Mr. White is a bad guy. Madeline's the daughter of this villain, so it's kind of connected with Drago being Draco from On Her Majesty's Secret Service is not a bad guy, but sort of a bad guy, or is a criminal at least, and so he's the daughter of a criminal. Also, in the book, at least, this was something that you and I harped on a lot on that episode with On Her Majesty's Secret Service, is that Tracy is supposed to be a little more world weary and stuff because of her dad being a criminal and stuff. They don't do a great job of showing that kind of stuff. You actually see how Swan had to deal with all the super spy, evil society, assassin stuff in her life. You also see that she knows how to use a gun. Those are things that I think that we nitpick the shit out of on Her Majesty's Secret Service, specifically with Tracy, is like she just comes out of nowhere and starts fighting people, and it's never established. This movie at least does a great job of like, hey, it kind of makes sense why she knows how to use a gun. It kind of makes sense why she knows how to do all these things. She doesn't like doing them, but it makes sense.
There are two things that I absolutely love in this movie, and that's one of them.
What are they?
The first one is when young Madeline shoots Safin. I love that. That was actually set up in Spectre.
A man once came to our house to kill my father. He didn't know I was upstairs playing in my bedroom. Well, that papa kept a Beretta 9mm under the sink with the bleach.
Every time I watch that moment, I'm like, good girl, good girl. The other thing that I love is Safin killing Blofeld's entire family, his Spectre family, in front of him.
But I see you from my little eye, and my little eye says hi.
Just like what Blofeld did to him.
Blofeld ordered my father to assassinate this family. Spectre's poisonous. My father held a banquet for them, used their own recipe in the dessert, dioxin. They would have suffered horribly. Scarred him for life.
Blofeld killed Safin's entire family in front of him. Safin turns around and does the same thing.